Okay, Jim, thanks for jumping on the podcast or video cast with me today. I asked you to be on after talking to you because you owned a rental and you're like, hey, I own a rental. I don't want to sell, but I have this business and that's why I don't want to sell, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, tell me about the business. And you explained to me that it's some type of storage business, and I'll let you explain it here in a bit. But in my mind, I'm an open book to learning, right? And so when you said that, one of the problems I have or my clients have when they're selling their house is, where do we put all the crap that we don't want in the house for staging and showing, and but be able to access it, right? Or how does that look and what's that look like? Because storage units are full in many areas also. So anyway, tell me about your business. Tell me about you a little bit. How'd you get into the business? And yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is I got here in a roundabout way. So I started off as a molecular biologist, then went to law school and turned into a corporate attorney, and then realized I wanted to work for myself and not a big Fortune 500. So started off in real estate, started investing. So I have some residential and commercial real estate in my portfolio. And then after a probably 4 or 5 year search, I finally found a business that I wanted to start, looking both buying and starting business. Ended up with Units of Central Iowa. And what the business is, it's a portable storage and moving company. We have 12 and 16 foot containers, 8 feet wide, 8 feet high. They're all steel construction, weatherproof, animal proof, and we have a really fun delivery system it's a robotic forklift we call a robo unit, but we get to move it around with remote control, and it's just fun. Also a reason why I wanted to do this business. We have, what we do normally is, our biggest customer base are people who are moving. Most often it's people who have staggered closing dates. It's an easy solution for that. When you need stuff out of your house, you close, what do? You go to a storage unit. Well, we're a lot more convenient than a storage unit. We bring the storage unit to you and we'll bring it to your next location. We have delivery fees for each of those, of course, plus the monthly rent. So we have a lot more overhead than a normal storage unit from a business perspective. So we really can't compete price-wise. We're more of a convenience factor. We do rehabs, remodels, people use us. The other big area that uses us is the restoration world. So say you have a rental unit and floods, or you get mold or fire, which just happened at mine. Yeah, and so the restoration companies will do pack outs and content cleaning, and what you normally, sometimes they have storage, sometimes they don't. A lot of times they don't have storage available, so they'll use our storage containers on site to store your items.
Is that commonly paid for by the insurance, like claims or whatever?
Always covered. The tornadoes that went through Winterset and Runnels, we have containers at all those. Insurance never questions. Yep.
Before we get into that world, like, how do you, this is my nerdy brain, how do you market that? Like, what's your primary way for people? Because how do they know about you? Like, besides just a Google search? I mean, is that it?
Yep. Google's our number one, the pay-per-click ads. We got hefty spend for pay-per-click. Yeah. Trying to keep up our SEO from everything from Google My Business, which is now something else, but Facebook, yep. Instagram, we have a Twitter page that I've never seen. Somebody else runs. I'm pretty active on the LinkedIn and the Facebook.
Right.
To try and keep local pictures up on there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's just backtrack. The staggered closing, it's very, very common. Biggest pain in the butt for everyone involved, whether you're buying, selling, or the agents or the bankers. It's terrible. So if there's a staggered sell and sellers put all their stuff in your storage unit, it's sitting in the driveway, or does it go to a separate place, or is there
it's cheaper to keep it at your location or the new location if you can. So you can put it into agreement where the storage unit is either stays at the location or it goes to the new one early, like if it's a new build or something.
Yeah.
That is our cheapest option because we charge a fee for keeping it at our storage center, which is climate controlled and secure.
Right.
So we do have that option available, and most people just pay for the storage at our facility when they have their staggered closings. It just makes life easier, right?
Yeah.
Convenience again. That's what we go for.
Yep. So you have 16 and 20 foot units, right?
12 and 16.
12 and 16.
Yeah.
How many, like 2,000 square foot house? How many do you need?
Yeah, so normally we say a 12-foot container packs 700 to 1,000 square feet of fully furnished house. 16-foot container will get 1,000 to 1,200 square feet, so like a 2-bedroom house or apartment. So 2,000 square foot, we'd probably do 2 16-foot's the easiest. There's not a lot of price difference between the two, and just to make sure you have the space.
Yep, that makes sense. And obviously you probably had different promos and discounts and whatnot. Give me a range of like what are we looking at here?
I typically say $300 to $500 for the first month. If you want to keep it after that, the recurring rates are right now we're at what, $219.99 a month.
And does that not count the delivery and like what's that?
So we charge all delivery fees in the first month up front, which is different from the national competitors. They try and hide those. So we're upfront about all our costs, and then it's cheaper later on, and you're never hit with any surprise fees.
So the 300 is the first month fee, and that includes the delivery
and pickup. Yep.
Rough. Obviously
that's our cheapest option. You're in the Des Moines metro. You're doing it on site. We're not moving it from one house to another. You're just doing it for a remodel for a month.
Yep.
It's about a little over $300.
How far do you guys you could deliver to Arizona, right? I'm guessing it just costs more money.
I'm part of a franchise network, so we can. But from our local shop, and that's really expensive. But from our local place, we typically stay on the I-80 corridor on I-35. Try not to go to the corners where it just takes forever to get to, both from labor costs and gas. Diesel is just crazy expensive. So it's really not worth our time to go up there.
Yeah. When you say up there,
Sioux City, Lamar's.
So you're talking Iowa. You try to stay central Iowa.
Stay in Iowa. Yep, central Iowa.
Yep, gotcha. If someone was delivering, like say they had a U-Haul packing their stuff up from Arizona, this is more on the buyer side, right? And they hey, it's all done. We've got our stuff packed. It's coming on this date, but we can't close. We can't get our stuff in there. You're laughing because you probably have had this. Do you guys have anyone that would take it from one U-Haul and put it in your stuff, like your containers, or do you guys do any of that labor?
We don't do any labor. We're not insured for moving, but we do have labor partners that will recommend. So we have moving companies that will just do the labor for you. And we have had that happen. Thankfully, most of the time when that happens, it's been corporate moves. So the large corporation will foot the bill.
Yeah.
And so they're not as worried about the cost, and they'll usually just get rid of the U-Haul where they're moving from and get a container there.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Based on me not knowing anything about your competition, what do you guys do different besides convenience? You mentioned, is there, which can be the only thing you need to be different on, but give me your sales pitch against the national competitors.
Yeah. So the national competitors often come off as being convenient until you try and work with them. So, you're calling a call center. You're not going to talk to someone local. They're going to promise you a container right away, which they may do, but you need it moved to your next house. It may not happen for 2 months. We've run into that situation. This is a situation that's funny. That's happened a couple of times, is where the white and red container company drop off a container, people fill it up, and then call to say, hey, our house is closing next week. We need it moved. And they say, well, we can't move it for 2 months.
I've heard that. It's kind of what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yes, so we have actually had people call us and say, hey, we are in a hurry. We have our house closes tomorrow. Can you get us a container? Pods is sitting in our driveway and they can't pick it up. And they have left the pods in their driveway and said, it's on you to pick it up. So yeah, they have switched to us. Customer service is our big differentiator. You're dealing with me here locally, my operations manager, Joe, who's phenomenal. You're going to be able to talk to someone. We're going to be able to work through any issues that come up either from your side or hopefully not from our side, but things do happen. We have mechanical issues and stuff, but we've got backups for most things. So, but customer service, we do have, like I said, the robo delivery unit. It is a advantage over our competitors. It allows for level loading and unloading. It delivers on wheels, so it prevents damage to concrete. The competitors pretty much have those two aspects covered. What they don't have is we can get into really tight spaces. So pods needs like 23 feet height of clearance. So if you have trees over your driveway, they won't be able to get in. And they need more than one parking space width. We need 8 feet 3 inches. So ours are 8 feet wide and 8 feet tall. We need 3 inches on each side to get into a spot.
I feel like that'd be a really good commercial to do of like, it's perfect. You fit it and they're like, can't fit it. And you like you're like, we can do it. And just
yeah.
And so you guys are franchised, right? Or you're a part of a franchise. How much of it has been you guys leading that charge or having them show you these are the exact things you need to do? Like, don't get creative, just do these things, stupid. The franchise wants us to rely on pay-per-click. Now that only gets you so far. So we try and do as much as possible. They also say to do guerrilla drops and guerrilla marketing. If you've heard that term. That's like oxymoron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's those two things. Those are the two things they want you to do the most, and which for us is dropping our container at a mall until the mall calls us and tells us to get rid of it. But a lot of people get to see it that way, and that's your guerrilla marketing tactic, where it's free advertising because your product and brand awareness is out there. I've done other things. I'm a partner with the Iowa Cubs, so you see us on their billboards, and you'll see our containers around the stadium. I've donated to DMARC, Habitat, Drake a couple times. Just being part of the community is big, and that's another big differentiator from the national ones, is just I'm able to be here and help out in the community and be able to do things, and that also gives us brand awareness.
For sure. Do you guys have one, like all your employees are required to have one sit in your driveway?
We should. No.
Do you guys, I gotta think that agents have to be at least a part of your marketing, and not necessarily is that something you guys work?
Yeah, it is. One of the big realty companies has been just horrible for me to get into. I can't talk to any agents. I can't get distribution lists. I can't sponsor events for them. I don't know. But I am preferred vendor for a couple of local brokerages where we sponsor their events and things, and then in exchange we get to educate the agents because they just don't even know that we're here, right? And that's the biggest thing we're trying to do is just educate them. Here's an option. We're local,
right?
Yeah, and give you a discount if you want to use us and recommend us.
Yeah, cool. Well, that is not why I wanted to have you on. I'm truly just curious and didn't know about the process. But happy to make any introductions if you would like. Just let me know.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm in the office all the time, so can pretty much talk to anyone.
Okay.
What else? I do a fair amount of work with investors. So investors, kind of that same rehab, that's how the use would be, right? Is if you don't have a garage to store your crap and you're rehabbing a unit. It's a safe. What about safety wise? Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Safety wise, lock on it. Is there, obviously you can grind anything off, but what's that look like?
Yeah, we have disc locks that we sell that cannot be cut off with bolt cutters. You have to use a metal grinder to get them off. That's how we get them off if we need to. So other than that, they're pretty much impossible to get into. I've seen cars run into these kind of containers and not break them open. They're pretty safe
Cool.
from that standpoint. But on the investor side, I'm actually pretty surprised being an investor. I thought more investors would use us. I'm a sponsor for Iowa Real Estate and what is it? IREA. Yeah. I've talked at their meetings. I talked to my property manager, make sure that they know that they can get a discount. And I really haven't gotten a lot of use from investors. I know that if I were going to do a rehab, I would have one on site for me.
I bet it. I bet
if you
it
have
has
a big garage, it's different. But
yeah, I bet it has a lot to do because the investors, they hire the contractors. So the contractors would be the one that would use it instead of the investor, unless you're self-doing it. And good Lord knows I don't want to do that. I can't read tape measure.
Right. So for the year we've been open, we probably had 5 or 6 investors use us. I've known about.
Cool. And then, rate's pretty reasonable. For a priced into a 3-month flip.
Well, here's the other thing, I look at it, it should be the next in line of an evolution of moving. If you're renting a U-Haul truck, for example, okay, they put that $19.99 price on their website, but you rent it for a full day and you drive it. Or, okay, let's say you keep it overnight, you're spending $400.
Yeah.
So we can be cheaper than a U-Haul truck and a heck of a lot more convenient, and you got to take your time.
Yeah. When you said the price, it was not sticker shock to me. Granted, I have not shopped around or thought about it at all.
Right.
But to me, it's always just math. Does math work, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay. Anything else? What else should I, we don't need to make this last any longer than it needs to, or shorter or whatnot, but what else do people ask?
The biggest other question is how I got into it. Looking for a business. How did I choose this one? This is an interesting business model. Being both, I see independent franchise or independent local shops around the country who have built these themselves, and also being part of the franchise. Either way, it's a huge investment up front to get into. So there's a large barrier to competition. That was one fact that got me to lean this way, knowing that you're going to have an advantage in the area, and there's not going to be, once you get established, it'll be hard for somebody to come in and take market share from you. That said, the market is growing. We're not really taking market share from the pods or the pack rats of the world. It's a growing market, which is interesting. It's supposedly recession proof. We'll see here in the next year or two, but we're growing pretty good right now. I know in 2008, a lot of the franchises had some of their best years they've ever had. People downsizing.
Yeah.
That was another factor. And then I can do other things too. I can continue to earn income while I wait to hit to break even, which with the huge upfront cost, it takes a while.
Right. Do you, as an investor, I'm just going to get real selfish, or not for me, but for you. Are you able to talk to sellers prior to them talking to agents so that you can potentially purchase a rental, just hey, let's make this quick and easy?
Yeah, I could. I haven't tried to leverage that.
No, yeah, and right, and not to do it, in a harmful way. It's really just hey, as an investor, I'll buy that from you, and you can just wipe your hands clean, no inspection.
Yeah, we've had several people call prior to getting an agent where they've gotten stuff out and ready to move before getting an agent. So that's an absolute possibility. But
cool.
I'm just not in the position to be buying right now.
Yeah, got a lot of, yeah, I yes, totally get it. I was always curious of the dumpster people, right? I'm like, I want to own a dumpster company, not to do the dumpster work, but to be the first one that's called. I haven't done it yet, but
I also want to do a dumpster company.
how about as an investor, and share as much or as little or not at all as you want? Like, how are you feeling about the real estate world as like just compared to what you were feeling? Or obviously you're starting a business, so you probably can't, do a ton of investing, but like macroeconomic, how you feeling?
I still think it's a good place to be in, especially as part of a diversified investment strategy. I never like to invest everything in one spot. I'm getting a little heavy into businesses now. I just see the rate of return so much higher now, a lot more risk, a lot more work. However, you're going to get a great return on investment no matter what the price is. You just got to, as everybody says, get the right property at the right time, right? The property you contacted me about, I got from someone who lived in a duplex, and no renters, so therefore there was no market rate that I had to bid against other people for. We still had to bid against other people for it, but we won that rental and got it at a good price, and the rent has just been unbelievable. And as I said, it just cash flows too well that who knows if I'll ever get rid of it.
You do long-term rentals there?
Yeah. Curious to see what happens with short-term rentals. As more and more people have gotten into them, how flooded will the market get there? I think long-term, you're always going to have a good value proposition as long as you do the math right. You don't want to get to a point where you're not having cash flow over your expenses. So that's the biggest watch out, is just watch your cash flow.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And just different types of assets is what I've noticed. So like the reason I called you about yours is I have an investor that they want a good duplex. Like cash flow is kind of irrelevant. It matters, but it is not number one on their radar. I just want to stash my money away in a good area that I don't have to really think about. So, yep. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. And I think interest rates are going to, once again, I like barriers to everybody getting in. So I tend to, when I invest in a little bit higher end stuff. While the rate of return isn't always as good, it can be a lot better. But it limits the options that people have to where you're at. And it allows me to always have good tenants, low turnover rates, longer term tenants that you can increase rates on and not have to worry about. And I think the interest rates going up is going to help limit the amount of investors who have just been, I feel like it's just been crazy the last couple of years, everybody trying to buy houses or multifamily. Curious to see what it does with syndications as well. That's an interesting place that people have made a lot of money that I'd worry about here in the next 4 or 5 years.
I feel the same way. I mean, think about a syndication who, just put it all together, plans to get out in 5 years. If rates are where they're at in 5 years, like I don't live in that world. I just very much dabble, but to me that math does not work.
Right. Yep.
But then on the flip side of that, people are still buying at cap rates that they were 4 months ago.
I know.
And so I'm like, well, if they still buy at the same cap rate and the interest rate's 2-3 points more, I mean, maybe it'll work. I don't really want to take that risk, but somebody can. I'll watch.
Yep. It's interesting how that works. It's kind of, that's like a halfway point between running a business and real estate, because you're doing more of a either development or buying something and rehabbing and flipping. I have just been drawn to businesses so much recently, especially after doing it. It's addicting. I just opened my second location in Kansas City. It's so much fun, on top of the amount of return you can get on investment is just unbelievable. It takes time, a lot of effort, a lot of risk, but it's fun for me.
I'm kind of that same way. People ask me like, why don't you buy more? Why aren't you buying? And I'm like, I'm building a real estate business, right? Like the commissions that I make, if I can systematically make that then the rental is just like, it's just another asset in my deal. But like, I got to build this business, and we're in startup stage. Been doing it 2 years. It's going well, but it's still, that's the business. So I get it. And I used to own a mosquito spraying company that I was going to franchise. And I was like, screw that. They literally, I mean, they didn't do hardly anything. It was very low cost of entry. So I was like, well, I got a truck. I've got a $800 sprayer, and all I got to do is knock doors. So I knocked doors, and I was 15 grand a summer is what I made, which is something to do.
Absolutely.
Good part-time job. Yep. And then I realized, oh yeah, to scale this, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go, man. I appreciate it, Jim. And like I said, if you want some connections here, you want to make it, I mean, I'm happy to at least make an intro, and if that's something you'd be interested in, because I go to all the team events and the office meetings, and I've never heard anyone talk about any storage, self-storage, U-Haul, any of it. So
I'd love to. Let me know and I'll show up.
Perfect. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. You have a good one.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.